Dear John, dear Pierre-François, dear members of the Veil family, Presidents, heads of government, all ladies and gentlemen who are present here today, your number, your qualities, your status, your presence, the presence of so many of our fellow citizens who are here among us today bear witness in a living way to the importance of this moment. At a moment when the nation pays its final respects to Simone Veil after the powerful, poignant testimonials of their sons, let's suspend the official language for a few moments and let's contemplate her life, because her life doesn't cease to surprise us. Never we will be able to measure the deep suffering, the violent suffering of what could have broken a soul, the black experience of the camps of death, where her mother Yvonne died, her father André died, and her brother Jean. Later, the accidental death of her sister Madeleine, who was with her in Germany, and her nephew Luc. The precocious death of her son Claude Nicolas. And finally, the death of Antoine, who is still very present today in our hearts, in our thoughts. Antoine, the indispensable, always full of ideas and stories, and so a solid partner. But never either will we forget this life. We will never be able to fully measure the ardor, the deep energy in favor of good and just, the indefatigable energy to see triumph the ideas. This life of a woman offers us the example of somebody who was victorious over events that would have not probably challenged many other people in a much worse way. She showed her character. She showed the mysterious respect and fascination for an outstanding personality. In France, we have a name for this, which is embedded in our national genius. It's grandeur. Greatness. This greatness is that of the fights that she conducted, sometimes fighting several battles at the same time. And they were the fights of the century, of her century. Her commitment to transfer into France the status of political refugee, to the women who were in French prisons in Algeria, suffering from hunger, rape, being beaten. She showed implacable lucidity and great generosity, and we are absolutely astounded by this. Her battle to put an end to the horrible conditions in which abortions were taking place in France in those days, but also to fight against the social hypocrisy that engendered all this, that favored all this, and is now part of our modern history. Her fight for Europe, it didn't date from her election as a member of the European Parliament and then as the first president of the European Parliament. Her fight for Europe started much earlier, in the very beginning of her life. It dated from 1945. The wounds of deportation had not disappeared, but she wanted to restore good relations with Germany. One of her members of her entourage told me he never heard Simone Veil say anything negative about Germany, anything bitter about Germany and the Germans. She loved Europe. She defended Europe, always. At a moment when the country was capable of listening, but when people criticized her also, she defended Europe. She knew that the heart of the European dream, there was, above all, a dream of peace and liberty, for which she fought so much, so hard. And yet, she was not in favor of forgetting the terrible things that the executioners had done. She wanted the memory of the inconceivable acts should prevent them from occurring yet again. I can see here in this courtyard so many companions who were with her when she fought for so many years for her causes. Too many of them were capable only of saying nothing. President of the Memorial for the Shoah, that was her policy. She was very demanding. We mustn't give in to forgetting. We mustn't allow all of this to be forgotten. We must keep trace. We must keep the names. We must keep the faces of the people, and also at the same time fight for reconciliation. Other fights come back to my memory. The fight for the ratification of the universal rights of human beings, of human rights in the United Nations. Her fight as a minister for social protection with Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, Jacques Chirac, Édouard Balladur, François Mitterrand, the fight for human rights in Yugoslavia, and her fight for women's rights, her commitment against racism, anti-Semitism. The times, alas, provided her with many causes to fight, but there's more than that. Her fights, her battles were conducted before society had adopted them, before the majority of people were in favor of them. And she was right well before public opinion, and often against public opinion. Simone Veil was a pathfinder for the Republic. She attacked Bastilles, which we thought would never fall, and yet they fell. And we often didn't believe that it would be possible to achieve what she achieved. We had been indifferent and therefore allowed scandals to persist. Today, the Republic is proud of having fought for those causes. But have we always been just with the just? The cost of courage, the cost of her courage led to terrible insults, and she was hurt by many of the insults, but never gave up. She stood her ground. She knew that as a pioneer, you have to accept solitude. If you want to disturb people who want peace and quiet, you have to pay the price, because victory had no price. Victory was priceless. Freedom also was priceless. And Simone Veil had chosen resolutely to fight for the cause of liberty. She was vigilant, and she even attacked what we thought had been established forever. But where did all this strength come from, this determination, this will to fight for just causes? What was this internal compass that indicated her the right course? How come that she never fought the wrong battle and for the wrong causes? Each of us will have an answer to this question according to what we know of, what he or she knows of Simone Veil. For my part, I think the secret lies in her very early experience, her radical experience of arbitrariness and of evil. And from that, she drew up a morality of life. Suffering gives you only one right, the right to defend the other person's right. That was her absolute principle, born of her indefectible pain. Help the others, particularly the weakest people. We know that she was often very hard on those who were tough and in power, but she was always tender with the young and the weak. She didn't defend women only because she was a woman, but because she was humiliated by the power of men. There is still a lot to be done. We need the action, the sense of action, and the anger that she expressed. We mustn't get it wrong. Simone Veil's battles are not battles that have been won forever. What gave birth to them will inevitably reappear here or elsewhere today. And unfortunately, in too many parts of Europe and in the heart of our own societies, there is still intolerance, sectarism, fanaticism, extremism, which presents itself as popularism, compromises against our humanity, and which could lead to another battles, to more wars. Her determination, Simone Veil's determination to make humanity prevail shows us the course we must follow. Her humanity was not reserved only for public life. Her private life, with her relations with her husband, her children, her grandchildren. She received many letters. Correspondents often expressed their distress and their sorrow. She answered all the letters that she received. And sometimes it irritated Antoine. Sometimes she used French language which was very elegant. She had a passionate fondness for French literature, which she had acquired in childhood from her father. He would have been very proud to see his daughter a member of the French Academy, the Académie Française. When you dedicate a life to justice, and particularly to the justice for the most vulnerable, the most humiliated sections of the population, when the life is nourished by benevolence for humanity, whose hideous side she had seen and experienced, and when she decided to defend the values of the Republic under the auspices of the Republic, it is France that becomes greater. You have, Madame Veil, given our old nation gifts. You have made our country greater, better, and more beautiful. You have introduced into our lives the light that was in you and that nothing could extinguish, and that nobody could extinguish. The French knew this, understood this. Your greatness was our greatness. Therefore, it's not only the nation that is paying its final respects to you today. It's France and the whole of Europe who are present here, bearing witness to your battles. And at the time when you leave us, I pray, Madam, that you should receive the immense gratitude of the French people to one of her much-loved children, whose example we will never forget, will never leave us. That's why I have decided, in agreement with her family, that Simone Veil will lie with her husband in the Pantheon.